Welcome back to another Warren Files episode, players. Last week, we took a look at the case of the Perrin family and found out some new details to shed light on the case and those involved, but also that the hauntings that the Perrin family went through were indeed very true. This week, we hope to continue our streak of true hauntings and take a stab at the case of the famous Annabelle doll.
The Annabelle doll that is so famously kept in the Warrens Occult Museum has spawned a movie franchise that is unprecedented. We will make references, when we can, to the movies. However, our main goal in this episode is to dig into the actual research and background of the doll and haunting to get a better idea of what really happened to the doll's owners. To begin with, we want to start by discussing the namesake of the doll, Annabelle. Surprisingly, Annabelle was a real person. After the owners of the Annabelle doll noticed some strange occurrences happening in their apartment, they called on a medium to come and help them out. The medium detailed the story to the doll's owners, who we'll talk about next, and told them that Annabelle Higgins was a young girl that was found dead when she was only 7 years old, and that she used to live on the land the apartment the owners now lived in stood on. The medium held a seance with the owners and was able to introduce them to Annabelle herself. Annabelle told the girls that she used to play in a large field area that existed many years before the apartment complex was even a thought. Out of compassion, the owners of the doll permitted the spirit to stay with them and possess the doll. There are some slight differences in the story detailed here and the story Ed talks about in different interviews, but after researching and consulting with our research assistant Jessie, we've come to determine that a lot of it is just semantics, and we believe this is the true story of Annabelle Higgins. That being said, we want to quickly read out a quote said by Lorraine Warren. "Spirits do not possess inanimate objects like houses or toys, they possess people. An inhuman spirit can attach itself to a place or object, and this is what occurred in the Annabelle case. The spirit manipulated the doll and created the illusion of it being alive in order to get recognition. Truly, the spirit was not looking to stay attached to the doll, it was looking to possess a human host." So players, let's see what kind of power Annabelle had over the doll owners, Donna, Angie, and Lou.
Donna, who was the sole owner of the doll, having received it as a birthday present from her mother, lived with Angie and Angie's fiance, Lou, in an apartment. Shortly after receiving the Raggedy Ann doll, Donna and Angie began to notice little things about the doll. It would switch positions or even move to different areas of the house when no one else had done so. Then they began to receive childlike messages scribbled onto parchment paper, which they assumed was from Annabelle. And Donna said the parchment paper would be scribbled with messages that would read, "Help us," or "Help Lou."
We had left her in the spare room.
Now, obviously, the clips that we just showed are a dramatization of what actually happened, but the oddest thing of all about these messages, Donna says they never kept parchment paper in the home. so she had absolutely no idea where this paper was even coming from. One night, Donna came home to find what looked like blood on the back of the doll's hand, and 3 drops of blood on the chest. There was, of course, zero explanation as to how the blood got on the doll, and this is what ultimately decided that something was terribly wrong, and Donna sought the help of the medium we previously mentioned. To make matters worse, the doll seemed to be oddly attracted to bothering Lou the most.
Lou has claimed that he never liked the doll and felt something evil about it the entire time it was in the apartment. He even warned Donna that the doll was evil. Lou was Angie's fiance, and he lived in the apartment with the girls and the doll. One night, Lou claims to have awoken suddenly from a very deep sleep and felt some sort of paralysis, meaning he was unable to move at all. He says that the Annabelle doll was at his feet and slowly made its way up his legs, finally his chest, and then began to strangle him until he blacked out. He woke up the next morning and was absolutely certain that this was not a dream. Another event that Lou experienced happened with Angie as they were planning a trip Lou would be taking the next day. He and Angie heard rustling coming from Donna's room, so Lou approached the closed door, and when the noises stopped, he entered the room. He saw the Annabelle doll lying in the corner of the room, and as he approached the doll, felt something behind him. He spun around quickly, only to instantly double over in pain, as he did, grabbing his chest. Upon the sudden pain, he lifted his shirt to find 7 claw-like scratches on his chest that were bleeding, 4 horizontal and 3 vertical, quite possibly making the shape of a cross, that not only bled, but burned hot. The scratches healed rapidly and were gone within several days, which is quite odd.
The movies depict a lot of different ideas and stories, and we do want to talk about some of them, as they are said to be taken from the Warren case files. In the premiere Annabelle film, it is shown that Annabelle Higgins grows up to start a satanic cult, which is how the evil demon is able to become attached to the doll.
My husband's coming back. Just take whatever you want. Just get out.
This is obviously very untrue, as Annabelle Higgins only lived to be about 7 years old. But it does pose some very interesting thoughts. How did this demon even become attached to the doll? In the 2017 film Annabelle Creation, we learn that Annabelle Higgins is actually an orphan named Janice who became possessed by the demon attached to the doll. Janice escapes and is adopted by the Higgins family, and changes her name to Annabelle, just like the doll, which was actually the dollmaker's daughter's name, who dies at the age of 7. Could this be a possibility of what truly happened and how the doll became possessed? We wish we could say yes, but the fact of the matter is, we just don't know how the demon came to be attached to the doll to begin with. Whatever the case though, the paranormal activity was becoming violent, and Donna was beginning to realize that whatever was attached to the doll was not the innocent spirit of a child.
Enter Ed and Lorraine Warren. Donna is given their names after reaching out to an Episcopal priest named Father Hagen, who then contacted Father Cook, who then reached out to the Warrens. The Warrens convinced Father Cook to perform an exorcism on the apartment to cleanse it of the demonic presence and bless Donna, Angie, and Lou. The Warrens came into the apartment and discovered that the doll was, indeed, not possessed by the spirit of a 7-year-old girl, but a demon who wanted to take over Donna's soul. Upon hearing this, Donna pleaded for the Warrens to take the Raggedy Ann doll with them, and it has been in their possession ever since. The Warrens called on a priest to perform an exorcism on the doll after hearing of all the horrifying accusations and experiences the doll seemingly created. After taking the doll and cleansing the apartment and tenants, the Warrens experienced firsthand what kind of power the doll truly possessed. The entire drive home with Annabelle in the back seat, the Warrens' car kept breaking down and the brakes would stop functioning.
That should do it. Honey, you okay?
After bringing the doll home, they began to notice that the doll continued to create supernatural occurrences. Ed sat the doll in a chair next to his desk, to which it began levitating a number of times, and then fell inertly. The following few weeks, it reverted back to some of the claims Donna, Angie, and Lou were making, in which the doll would appear in different rooms without having been moved by anyone in the home, and would oftentimes find the doll upstairs in a chair after being locked up in another building. Along with that, the doll seemed to show a terrible hatred for any member of the clergy that stepped foot in the Warrens' home. One example comes from Father Jason Bradford, a Catholic exorcist. When Father Bradford approached the doll, he picked it up and said, "You're just a rag doll, Annabelle. You can't hurt anyone." Upon hearing this, Ed warned him that he should not say things like that and to take caution when he left the home. Lorraine also pleaded Father Bradford to take extreme caution when he left their home, and was later told that Father Bradford's brakes failed in his vehicle when he was coming up to a busy intersection. He was involved in a near-fatal accident and his vehicle was completely destroyed. Annabelle was then taken to the Warrens' occult museum and trapped in a glass case so she could no longer inflict harm on anyone. These days, she's a hot tourist attraction.
The Warrens have Annabelle on display in a special case that was built for her in their occult museum. Since being put in the case, it seems that Annabelle's power is under control. However, it does seem that she can still manipulate things to happen. A young man and his girlfriend visited the occult museum and began to bang on the glass case, insisting that the doll had no real power, and that he wanted the doll to scratch him. Ed immediately asked the gentleman and his girlfriend to leave the museum. On the ride home, on a motorcycle, the two began laughing at the whole idea of a possessed demon doll, to which the gentleman completely lost control of his motorcycle and crashed head-on into a tree. The boy was killed instantly, and the girl spent about a year in the hospital recovering from her injuries. The girlfriend claims the doll somehow caused the motorcycle to crash, as they were taunting and joking about its power. Ed continuously would warn people to never challenge evil, as there is no man more powerful than Satan.
Before we give our final verdict on the Annabelle doll haunting, we wanted to name another honorable, demonic doll that has appeared in the paranormal radar. In Key West, Florida, there is an even more well-known doll, Robert the Doll, which was actually the inspiration for Chucky from the horror film Child's Play. The story is something like this. The doll was given to a painter and author named Robert Eugene Otto in 1906 by a Bahamian servant who worked for his family. The servant was skilled in voodoo and black magic and was, obviously, displeased with the family for their treatment of them. The young boy became inseparable from the doll, which he named Robert after himself. His parents would often overhear him speaking to the doll, and assumed he was just changing his voice when the doll would answer back, but later became suspicious that the doll itself was actually speaking to their son. Over the years, people that would walk past the home would see the doll move from window to window, and the family would actually catch glimpses of the doll running down the hallway from room to room and had the most uncomfortable giggle. When they would hear loud, strange noises coming from their son's bedroom late at night, they would enter to hear their son exclaim, "Robert did it," and believed him.
Now, we know how hard it must be to believe that a doll can actually cause all of this to happen. But the fact of the matter is, and what people seem to forget most when talking about a haunted, possessed, demonic doll, is that it's not the doll making things happen, but whatever is attached to that doll, a demon or an evil spirit. It is unclear, and we don't think we will ever really be able to know how a demon came to be attached to a Raggedy Ann doll, but whatever the case may be, the only thing we can truly say about this case is that we believe it to be very true. Now, we will say some of the things that happened, like the whole Lou being strangled thing, might seem a little far-fetched, but we do strongly believe that there's some evil power attached to this doll, and that it should not be messed with, ever. So, we're 2 for 2 on our Warrens Files season. Will we go 3 for 3? Find out next week, when we take on The Conjuring 2, The Enfield Haunting.
Stop calling me Janet.
Isn't that your name?
Janet's asleep. And I'm talking.
Well, what should I call you?